Apple II forever, making life better and better. Apple II forever and ever, bringing the rainbow to you.
Well, good afternoon, KansasFest, and welcome to our presentation about the print shop. The print shop is basically it's a software package that's kind of dear to me. When I moved schools in 1985, the new school I went to had an Apple IIe that they had just got, and one of the software packages that it came with was the print shop. And so it was a lot of fun, and we used the print shop to create all sorts of banners and stuff for school activities and Christmas and things like that. And over time, more and more students started to use it, and the teachers started to get more and more upset about the fanfold paper budget. Yeah, but I always kind of wondered about the two guys that, made it, David Balsam and Martin Kahn. And so, I mean, I looked into that a few years back. The story starts around 1982. David was a musician, or is still, they're both still around. David's a musician, and at the time he was making a living as a software specialist doing training, and he went to a party at Martin's house. Martin was a graduate of UC Berkeley and had degrees in mathematics and linguistics, but he discovered his passion in creating computer graphics and computer art. And so he was working as a graphics programmer for Broderbund and North Star Software, and then tried to make it, like he was trying to make it as a digital artist, but there wasn't a lot of appetite at the time in the community. And there still kind of isn't, but anyway, so he was making software that created art and was trying to leverage the graphics hardware of the time as much as he could. And so, he had, a lot of his art on display at this party that David went to, and they hit it off. And so they started a relationship. And one of the things they decided to do was design some software together because
Well, we do that.
yes, we do that. Anyway, so the first project they decided to design was called Perfect Occasion, and it was a video greeting card program, and it allowed you to create animations and that sort of thing to celebrate occasions and that sort of thing. And then the idea was that you would put it on a disk and then mail it to the person you're sending it to, and then they would put it in their computer. But the problem was it was only for the Apple II. There wasn't a lot so it was unlikely that somebody had an Apple II, like that their grandma had an Apple II. And so Doug Carlston from Broderbund Software suggested that they create something that printed instead, because if you can print it out on a piece of paper, you can send that to everybody. And so they went to rework it. The second thing they decided to do was the original program that they made was very open-ended, like almost like Photoshop or that sort of thing. And they decided that your average user was going to have this was Martin's background with the training or David's background with the training. Anyway, suggested that it needed to be more workflow oriented, and so that's where they sort of came up with the idea to develop the workflows for the various things, for the greeting cards and the signs and banners and so on. And so they developed it, and in 1984 it was released, and to widespread acclaim because it was a very well designed piece of software. It still is. So what do we have in here? We got So they created a graphics library disk that went along with it, I guess, in later copies of the print shop. They gave you a card. Welcome to the world of the print shop. And this card has been included to show you how to fold your print shop greeting cards. Customer card. Yeah. Anyway, but one of the things they did is they provided stationery, colored stationery. So you got it. They got a bunch of envelopes and they sent you
Drum roll.
colored fanfold paper and Pixelite software, which was David and Marty. It's interesting. There's a serial number. Oh, there is a serial number on the fanfold paper. That's interesting. I never noticed that before. It says Broderbund software down on the bottom. So David and Marty, one of the things they did was they sold colored paper and colored ribbons themselves. Graphics Library Special Edition. Graphics. And so they sold the graphics and they sold the extra discs for fonts and that sort of thing. So there was a third person involved, and that was Corey Kozak, and he did all the ports for the various other platforms. So Martin did the Apple II, and then Corey Kozak did the Commodore 64 and Atari and IBM PC and stuff. He's got kind of an interesting story. He learned to code in the back of a Radio Shack when he was 12 years old on a TRS-80. He inhabited the back end of the Radio Shack, and the salespeople were okay with that. Eventually, one of the salespeople hooked him up with this other fellow that wanted some software developed, and that person basically provided him with an Apple II. And so he created a program called Apple Spice, which was an AppleSoft Basic extender, and he met Doug Carlston at a user group meeting. And Doug Carlston hired him, gave him a computer, and it's kind of infamous because he with his print shop money he bought a Porsche. So so that sort of tells you how much they there's some quibbling over between the parties involved about the anyway, the royalties and stuff. But I think it's fair to say that everybody did very well from that. Okay, so we created a few things to celebrate the print shop. I mean, we had our existing the print shop club site. I guess we could put on screen sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we created the print shop club. It's basically it runs a version, it runs an Apple II emulator that we call Cyanide, which is a web-based emulator.
So it's written in it's in WebAssembly using Go.
Yeah, it's written in WebAssembly, and so then when you
oh, hang on.
yeah,
Hang on. Yeah, because of the thing.
So
I'll hang on. Where do we want to do here?
Yeah. So it loads up and you can create the graphics, and it's the color version of the print shop. And so then it prints it off and downloads the PDF to your computer, so then you can print it off. But we kind of wanted to look at a few things. One, while the graphics library disks provide a lot of graphics, we wanted an easier way. And there's the graphic editor, but we wanted to create an easier way to import graphics and fonts and borders, and then so you can put them onto a disk. So we created the editor. So we're just going to the editor, which there's a link on the top. So when you go into the editor, it comes up with this, and there's you can see the sub menu at the top. There's images, borders, fonts, and media, and so whatever you create in each of those categories. So let's like import an image, I guess. Yeah.
So here's gonna import a picture of our puppy named Freya. So it has different options for dithering. You can draw manually too, but it has different options for dithering the graphics as well. It'll allow you convert existing images. And yeah, so once you're actually happy with something, and you can use pens and shades and things, and you can draw and edit this to your heart's content once you've imported it.
The different dithering styles.
Yeah, so you can change the dithering styles on the fly. So that's a custom one that we use by default. This one's Atkinson, so it's got all the common ones like Floyd Steinberg and yeah, and so you can adjust the threshold there, like at which it sees the pixels as black or white for the dither. And once you are happy with that, I'll go back to Atkinson. Yeah, you can either export it, which will download just like a binary file version of it that you can use with either Diskmate or Ciderpress, or you can click Add to Project. And in this case, a little indicator appears on the Media tab, so you can see that we've now got Pug Clip Art, 572 bytes in size, on there. So and you can keep doing this. You can just add more images, or you can do things like adding borders and fonts as well.
Okay, so we were going to print out a demo. We were going to print out a demo for KansasFest using the Modern Tectura font and the Apple
Apple logo.
The Apple logo. So
yeah,
let's
let's show what you can do with this. So we can go import image again. In this case, I've got a PNG of the rainbow Apple logo, and I'm just going to switch it back to this dither, and let's go to about there. I think that's a good representation, like shade wise, of the different colors. So let's add that to the project. And if I go back to the Media tab, you'll see that that's now present. And we need a font. Now, in the old days, you just edit these bitmap fonts. But why not, in this age of TrueType and OpenType fonts, just take an existing font from your desktop machine and import it. So this is the Modern Tectura font, which everybody, I think, you will recognize. And I'm just going to shorten that name a little bit, just so it's more readable in PrintShop itself. And we're going to go add to project. And in the Media tab, you'll see it's there. It's got a preview of the font. It's just under 5K. And I think we're good to go, unless we want to do a custom border that's a little more involved. You can edit.
There's no border on a banner.
That's true. No borders for banners, but you can create and edit borders in here as well. All right, so at this point, we've got our resources in here and we need to use them. So I think we're going to do this through Micromate.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So one of the things you can do now is you can download the DSK. And so that's the disk image for that. I'm going to hit open here, and it's going to put it on the wrong screen, but you can see in my file manager, I've got the PrintShop. It just says PrintShop data disk, and it's got a date stamp there. So that is the disk that we have just created. And now let's do some magic. So here's a Micromate instance running we made earlier. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that data disk and I'm going to drag it to drive 2. Give it a second there. Oh, and yeah, it's scrolling. All right, so we're going to do banner. Oh, and that's the other thing too. Probably should mention at this point, we've added full serial support to Micromate. So in the hardware super serial card, we've actually got it configured. Oh, by default, it's changed. All right, so serial ports. This will pick up your operating system serial ports. And in this case, I wrote it down earlier. We want to use our image writer that is on USB 0. That's actually selected. Okay, good. You can just reselect it. Okay, so let's go banner. Let's make a banner. And so we have the disk in disk 2 now. So we can, when it goes to choosing a font, we can go from other disk, hit enter. And you see there it says Moditecture. And shall we do solid or outline?
Yeah, solid.
Let's do solid. All right.
KansasFest.
Yep. Okay. And we're going to choose a graphic. And again, we're going to go from other disk. And we're not going to select the bug, as cute as she is. Let's select the Apple graphic. And let's do before and after message. Now we've currently got this set up for an image writer connected to the super serial card. We pre-configured that from the print shop side. And we're going to select print. I'm just going to make sure the printer is online.
All right, so while it's thinking about doing that, we've also done a couple of other things too. So the serial,
That might not be working. I might need to power cycle the printer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me try that. I'll do it again.
Let's press escape.
Yeah, just power cycle it. Yep. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. There we go. So you can't see it on camera at the moment, but there is an image writer behind Melody, image writer 2 that we recently got going. And it is doing its thing, which is noisy.
Okay, so what else can the serial do? I think there's also parallel, I think you got going.
Yeah, there's parallel support. So we have a parallel card in the default configuration. I'm hoping that printer's not too loud. That's in slot 1. We generally have a parallel card, and so you can print to that. And also both of those devices can also print using either an Epson printer emulation, or now we've added in this release that's coming out after this, an image writer emulation as well.
Mhm.
So when we were talking about like being able to print a PDF, you can do that from in Micromate, and you can use either an image writer emulation or an Epson printer emulation.
So I think close the beginning of the screen share.
Yep. Slot share.
Okay, so okay, it's only done the Apple. It's still thinking.
Oh.
So this is the image writer behind us. I'm just thinking about the fonts. We actually got some seal colored image writer cartridges off of eBay, and we tried one earlier, and it seems to work. Although there is some suggestion from some participants that the rollers might not hold up, for if we try to print something serious. But it's still amazing that these things still have they haven't dried out. So that's it was just interesting getting an image writer 2 working, after all of these years. So can that be put into warp mode?
Yeah, I think it might be.
It's stuck.
I think we might, in grand demo fashion, I think we might have found a bug.
Okay.
Which is funny because I did print out an entire banner the other day on this.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Poor thing. Anyway, so I did want to show something sort of interesting that we had acquired recently. So this is an Aero 1000 XL. It's a Canadian Apple II clone. It was made by some company called Trading is Logistics.
You'll have to hold it up to the camera.
Yeah. Logistics Products Incorporated. But it turns out there were a whole mess of different companies mostly out of Toronto, by a number of people that like started up that created clone Apple IIs. And they were never seemingly in large quantities. I mean, the serial number on this one is like 29, made in 1983. So I guess they were trying, like, a bunch of people, like, they were trying to get into the education market, and this one was obviously a school computer. Same word. Anyway, but it's interesting because they were all sued by Apple.
Well, that language card is.
Okay. They were all sued by Apple, and there was an injunction, but it didn't actually roll through the courts until 1987, so well after they stopped selling these, and they were fined $5,000.
I'm sure they made a like
So,
a little more than that.
copyright infringement does pay. Whoops.
Oh, that language card. Yeah.
The card fell off.
Yeah. So
All right. At some point, we're hoping to get the ROM from this. 'Cause
yeah.
it's
There doesn't seem to be much online about these, so we're pretty sure the ROM hasn't been dumped yet. So
anyway, we're gonna try the banner again quickly.
yeah, we will. We'll see.
I
if
can
it's
move on to the
gonna-
2C. Talk about print mate. Okay, so we got a little work to iron out with printing the certain fonts. But yeah, it'll sort out.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
just stop that
I'm
one.
sure April will figure it out in short
I
order. Not right now.
do. Not in
Okay.
the middle of this. No.
So then the final thing is PrintMate, which is a server-based sort of like based on Micromate, where we've taken the serial, like the anyway. You can talk about.
Well, it's actually a little more. But yeah. So essentially PrintMate will act as a bridge between any kind of retro computer, in this example an Apple IIc, and another printer, like be it another dot matrix printer that maybe it connects on parallel, but the 2C doesn't have that interface. Or as part of like Micromate, we did that PDF print emulation. Maybe you've got a commodity laser printer sitting around and you'd like to do some print shop signs and stuff like that. So essentially it's acting as a bridge. At the moment, it will kind of auto detect all the printers that are attached to the system that it's running on. And you can plug in. It works with like USB and parallel dongles that you can kind of get off Amazon for, between $10 and $20.
Mhm.
I think probably less in US dollars.
Mhm.
But today what we're actually going to do is we've got the 2C hooked up, and so with PrintMate itself, it's nothing really to look at. There's a lot of logging on the screen, but basically when you run it, it looks at your system, it picks up the state of the printers on the system, and then you can also, in a configuration file, you can kind of map like certain serial interfaces and things to it to say these are inputs, and route the output appropriately to a printer as required. So what we're doing today is we've got the Apple IIc running print shop. We have got an Epson LX350, which we purchased new this year off Amazon, I think.
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
a couple of $100.
Yeah, they still sell them about 3 maybe.
About $300 Canadian. And it's still around. It's a dot matrix printer. This one's actually hooked up over USB, so it's not actually today connected over either parallel or serial. So PrintMate's gonna kind of act as a bridge for us. Okay, and so we have a serial cable from the 2C that's running to my machine that PrintMate's on. And PrintMate knows that it's going to receive print data at a certain baud rate. In this case, it's 9600 baud, 8 data bits, 1 stop bit, no parity. It's connected to the 2C's printer port. And we are going to have a go at printing something, and hopefully this works better than the demo from Micromate. Okay, so let's just do a sign today. I'm just going to use stock graphics for this for expediency's sake. Let's choose good old beads, and we're going to choose. I want to go to the next page at least so we can get the Apple logo, because I know it's on page 2. We're going to do small and staggered, and we're going to choose RSVP, and we're going to say, let's try this again. Kansas. I'll split it over lines. Best 2024. I'm going to center it. And so I've just told it, yeah, it's a serial Epson compatible printer attached. And so depending on the operating system and the way that the print management works, it will behave a little differently. In this case, we're actually running this demo from Linux, and it's actually going to spool the data first to PrintMate. PrintMate's going to capture that, and when it's got it, it's going to forward it across to, it's going to spool it to the printer. So it's going to be quiet for a minute, but you'll see that it's got the good old printing there on the screen. I'd share the screen for PrintMate, but it's just a lot of log messages about receiving serial data at the moment. It's not much of a looker, it's more about what it does. So is there anything you want to say in the interim? We've got probably about a minute 30 seconds here because this is not warpable.
And Dennis Kovacic in the Print Shop 40 channel has mentioned about that they worked in an elementary school from 1980 to 1990, starting with 2 Apple IIs and growing to an Apple Talk network with 4 2GSs. And the kids loved making signs and cards for their parents at the print shop. My favorite part was when they printed them and the computer said thinking while processing the data for the printer. I told the kids, you realize, of course, that the computer isn't actually thinking, it just thinks it's thinking. Expressions trying to parse that were priceless. Thank you for that. Thank you for the.
April and Melody, do you want to answer online the question about the repo for PrintMate?
Yeah, so I just responded to that. So it's currently in a private GitHub repo. I'm just filing off some rough corners. And in the coming week, it will be made public and released as open source. There we go, it stopped. So yeah, that code will be available. So it's written in Go. It'll compile on pretty much any architecture, but I will drop binaries for everything. It could be put on a Raspberry Pi just fine. The only thing will be how many. Only thing will be how many USB ports you have free for like connecting peripherals and things like that. There we go. So that's via PrintMate to the USB connected printer.
Yeah, well, I think you can do parallel as well, can't you?
Yeah, so we do actually have a USB parallel interface. I mean, it's probably a bit involved to hook it up now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can hook up parallel printers, and yeah, the whole goal is just to act as like an interconnect bridge between machines. and the other thing that it will be doing, or actually it does support now, is it does allow you to print over TCP as well. So if you send the raw data to a TCP port, which is configurable, you can route it to a printer as well. So one of the things that's yet to do on Micromate is actually expose that and allow you just to print to a printmate server, which means you could put the printers in another room in your house and you could just print to them over TCP.
Okay, so are there any other questions?
Let's see. There's a question from Nicholas about is the version of Micromate with the serial port coming or available soon? And then also a question
So
about
again, that will be released this week. I've just got to do some final testing on the Mac and Windows builds. And look at that, bud, on Linux with the image writer
okay.
support. Yeah, just that should be coming in the next week as well. But we'll drop some messages, and I'm sure Melody will share with everybody when those are available.
Yeah, when things are sorted out.
All right, and then there was another question about have you ever considered releasing Micromate as open source?
So that is on the horizon. Yeah, it's really been a matter of time. I want to clean the code up a bit, just to restructure it to make it a bit more maintainable.
Yeah,
and it would be absolutely fantastic to get other people involved and working on that as well.
Yeah, and on a note for Micromate, since the last time we provided an update, like at KansasFest, we've added cycle accurate NTSC rendering.
Oh yeah. So it's been out
it's been out for a
probably
while,
few months, but we didn't do much fanfare about it.
No,
but all Dieter's cool stuff runs.
Dieter's demos run in Micromate now.
They didn't used to.
We're still like we tried to get PAL working, but we didn't quite figure that one out. So we'll have to maybe take another whack at that in order to get those French touch demos working. But in the name, like, you know, at least we're sort of there, partially there.
Cool. Let's see. There was a question from Jonathan on the chat here. Where did you find the history about the print shop creators?
Okay, so there's some articles. So one part of it is I've talked to David Balsam directly. He's a fun guy, and and I have talked to Doug Carlston as well. And so the interview with Doug Carlston, and also there was an article that came out at the time on the print God, I can't remember which magazine, but anyway, so it's on the Print Shop Club website. If you go to the top right where it says articles, and then there's listed there. So there's the Broderbund, like there's the Doug Carlston interview, the reprint of the magazine article that came out at the time. And it's interesting, like it's interesting that they're friends in the magazine article. Yeah, I guess that was just the time. So anyway, so you can check those out.
Cool. And wait, just to be clear, those are interviews from back in the day, but you said you also interviewed them?
Oh, I interviewed Doug Carlston a couple of years back for Paleotronic.
And
David, but that interview I haven't published that yet. But
okay.
but there's the Doug Carlston interview and the article. Yeah, and I think it might be something else on Paleotronic, but I can't remember right now. Okay.
Cool. I have a question with your interfacing to modern computers. I assume you're using some sort of like USB RS-232 for like serial, like some sort of cable, and have you had?
Yeah, so one of the things I'll do, and I should have had the list for hindsight is 2020. I've got a list of adapters that I will share that have worked for us. There are some cheaper adapters on Amazon that have not a full implementation with the UART, so it's better to get anything. Actually, I can tell you by just bear with me a second. I'm just I'm on Linux, so I'm doing an LS USB.
that-
If you
yeah.
get anything with a prolific based serial, like that, it shows up as prolific serial bridge. The ones from like Ugreen on Amazon are good. There's a couple of other future technology devices as well. The FT232 USB UART works incredibly well as well. And there is another one for the prolific based ones. I'll list these out later. That works really well for parallel to USB as well.
That's great. So all these years we've been telling people not to bring their image writers to KansasFest and just throw them away because they're not worth anything. But now we're gonna regret that, aren't we? Because we're all gonna want one.
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of life in them yet.
Cool. All right. Anything else you want to add about your project or?
Yeah, I think that's about it. So I'll post in the print shop channel. I think we actually did have somebody share a print shop. My wife expects J-Ran says my wife expects print shop club cards from me on special occasions now. I used to use Virtual 2 to do this, but now use your website, which is much more convenient for sure. This is a card I made a couple of years ago for her 50th and attached a couple of gifts. So I don't know if we can. Anyway, you can see the card. You can see the card in the channel. And so thank you very much for that. And thank you everybody for all of your comments in the channel. And when the software updates and releases and stuff, they'll be posted there. So thank you very much.
Yep, thanks.